Hello, you are listening to Deeply Curious. My name is Cody Jensen, and joining me in our New York City studio apartment is my wife, Sarah.
Hello.
In this episode of Deeply Curious, we're going to be talking about social media and mental health.
Yes.
Combined, the two. Those are things that we kind of talk about a lot. Sporadically throughout each episode, we'll drop a little line or two about social media, drop a little line or two about mental health.
They're always on my brain, so.
It's kind of a common thread, but we were also having a kind of a lengthy conversation this morning as we were sipping our Starbucks at Astor Place and having a conversation. We ended up talking quite a while about social media habits and plans, things. And so we decided, I think this is a valuable conversation that we could have on the podcast.
Yes.
Thus, we are here.
And welcome.
Yes. But before we jump into the conversation, just want to let you know and give a huge thank you to our podcast sponsor, B&H Photo Video. They are a massive photo video superstore located in New York City and also online at bnh.com. You can get all of your pro video, pro audio, photography, instruments, electronics, all the things.
All the things.
That you would need for all of your creating. Mm-hmm. If you are creating arts of the digital kind, probably what you need is located at B&H Photo Video. They hooked us up with all of our podcasting gear that you are listening to us through, which we are very thankful for. It upped the quality of the show significantly, and that makes me joyful. So just huge thank you to B&H. We love repping brands that we actually use and love. You will notice that is a trend of us in our podcast, in our videos. We rarely talk about brands because we are very selective.
I want to believe in what I'm selling.
Yes. And I don't even really want to sell things. I just want to share things that I truly enjoy.
Correct.
And I truly enjoy B&H. I really enjoy how much they help creators in New York City, and they always have the best selection at great prices. They also price match. So
infomercially.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, B&H. Let's jump into the show.
Yes.
So social media, mental health, and the links between the two is something that is very intriguing to me, very apparent in both of our lives. I mean, any conversation we have about social media, we always end up talking about the way it is affecting our mood and our productivity and our general, disposition.
Yeah.
And I think it is so important that we talk about this. And I want to, before we even get into the conversation, bring to the table something that I really like that John Green said, who is one half of the Vlog Brothers and author. You may know him from his smashing hit book and movie, The Fault in Our Stars.
Yes.
He is the author. And so John Green, he is also very active on social media, is also very active on YouTube with the Vlog Brothers channel, and he recently did a video talking about how he is quitting social media for this entire year.
Yeah.
And he talks about how there is not a problem with the internet. There is a problem with his internet.
Yes.
And so...
Such a good distinction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of... I want to throw that out there, and I really like that because when we're having this conversation is about our internet and our social media. And I'm not really saying, that being on social media is bad for everybody.
Right.
And that...
Or even that it's bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of saying it. But,
more so. But like more or less.
It's not... It is not all bad or all good.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
So I like that he made that distinction, and so I was just throwing that out there. But as far as our internet,
yes,
and our social media and our mental health, I have found since I have turned off all notifications on social media apps. That was the first thing I did. I did that a couple years ago. That was huge. so that I have to actively choose to get on my social media apps.
Right.
It's not, so-and-so commented, so-and-so liked, and I'm just constantly like going in there. It's kind of like the whole method of only checking email once or twice a day, once a week, whatever your situation is. But to keep your mind focused on what you're doing instead of constantly being pinged and dinged to divert your attention so that you can no longer do deep work.
Mm-hmm.
So turning off notifications for me has been massive. 2, I implemented the seatbelts, putting safety around myself, limiting my own self from social media with the new screen time features that Apple introduced with the new update.
Mm-hmm.
And so I turned screen time on where it restricts me from social media from 8 p.m. until 10 a.m. I thought that the biggest factor in that was turning it off at night so that I would
the blue light, the screens, your eyes not blinking, all of that stuff,
letting my mind rest, go to sleep, all that type of stuff, and also create margin for me to be able to read books, which was something that is a goal of mine that I was never able to accomplish because I
sat on your phone.
I sat on my phone or I watched movies or whatever, and so I just implemented no screens after 8 p.m. and I've already on my 3rd book of this year.
You're ahead of me, actually.
And that is kind of huge for me.
Yeah.
I'm not a fast reader. I'm definitely not the reader that Sarah is.
Right.
And so for me to be already on my 3rd book is I
mean, we're not even in the 2nd month of the year yet.
Right.
That's a big deal.
And I am very happy with the progress that has allowed me to do. And I feel better about myself. But that being said, I thought that was going to be the most important. But it was actually the morning restricting myself from social media until well after I'm awake.
Right, because you wake up at an ungodly hour.
No.
Yes.
I wake up normally around 7 a.m.
Yeah, ungodly. That's what I said.
In a lot of times it's between 7 and 8. Sometimes it is 8. So
the thing is that the other day you woke up at like 6 a.m. or something.
Right.
And I woke up because he was walking around the apartment. And then later I was like, why did you wake up at 6? He was like, well, I just decided last night that I was going to wake up at 6. So my body woke me up at 6. Like, what? You can just tell your body, hey, wake me up at 6?
I don't know how it works, but
I don't believe it. I don't think that's the truth. I can say all I want. Hey, wake me up at 6 a.m., body. And it'll be like, oh, 11? Okay.
I just say wake me up before September ends, and normally it happens.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry.
So like I was saying, I thought that the nighttime ritual was actually going to be the more important thing. But I have found that the morning ritual is actually way more important for my personal, I guess, health and productivity. That by not allowing myself to get on social media first thing, or, until after I have done meaningful work.
Right.
It has increased my productivity and the amount of stuff I can get done during the day and the way I feel about my day and myself. Graph off the chart.
Yeah.
And I didn't really recognize this in the beginning. It wasn't until actually this week or the week before, there was a day that I just decided that I was tired and I wanted to just kind of lounge. And so I decided to get on my phone before I did anything. I was like, literally got back in bed. I grabbed my phone because I don't keep my phone near the bed anymore, which was another thing that another safety feature that I put on myself, that I have to physically get up. And so I got up, I got my phone, and I ended up just getting back in bed. Probably was in bed for, 30 minutes or something, looking at social media apps. That day, I checked social media probably 300% more than any other day.
Yeah.
I just was constantly feeling like, check it, get on the app. And then I would get on the app and I would be, I guarantee you I did nothing meaningful that day.
Yeah.
Maybe some like busy work I did.
Yeah, like
but
emails or something.
In no way did I do any meaningful work that day.
Yeah.
It ruined my day.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened a second time. That was a little bit different situation. I needed to get one of our videos uploaded, and the night before, my time allotted ran out, where it was after 8 and I wasn't done with uploading and all that. But because I want to remain disciplined in my screen time, no screens after 8, I was like, okay, well, this just means I have to get up early tomorrow to do this. And so I got up early and I got my computer, but I brought my computer to bed with me. And I, did the thing and I worked on it or whatever. But since I was already on my computer, it didn't really feel like I was in work mode because I was laying in bed on my computer. I checked social media. And again, that day was shot after that. I was just like constantly checking everything. Just like, as one, I'm sure everybody's experienced that.
Yeah.
You're just constantly checking everything. And so at the end of that day, I was reflecting on those 2 days that I had in a 2-week period of getting on social media in the morning. I was like, wow, limiting myself in the morning is huge for my personal productivity. And the way, here's how I would say it. By not getting on social media until closer to noon allows me to be in control of social media, versus if I get on it first thing, social media controls me for the rest of the day.
Right.
And so that is just something that I've learned about myself, and also is maybe something that I would encourage others to try out. Maybe it works for everybody, maybe it doesn't. I'm only one case study, but results may vary.
Results may vary.
But I think that it is something valuable to consider, is restricting getting on social media until after you've done meaningful work.
Yeah, I think I would totally agree with the morning situation, though I'm a little bit different because I'm like at all times of the day. So because I use it to like avoid things. It's like, so this is like, well, this is one of the things that I planned on saying at some point in the podcast. Might as well be here. Not too long ago, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, I started thinking about like addiction in a different way, because like a lot of people, or maybe I should say I started thinking about drug addiction in a different way, because a lot of people, when you think about drug addicts or whatever, like it's always like drugs, like heroin, crack, whatever. But like caffeine is a drug, and social media, I think, is a drug, at least in my personal experience. And like it's no less of an addiction than heroin or whatever. And so I started kind of like thinking about it like that, because the way that I use social media is to escape and is to like avoid having to think about certain problems or feelings or whatever. Like I mindlessly scroll. That like I don't know, it's probably like 6 months ago. I was sitting on the couch mindlessly scrolling, I think Pinterest or something. And you walked up to me. It was like almost midnight. And you were like, are you scrolling Pinterest to avoid going to sleep so that you don't have to think about waking up tomorrow? And because I had to go do something that I didn't want to do. And I was like, oh, shoot. I am, I think, And so I've just been like paying a lot of attention to that. And like when I get on social media, what is my mood when I get on, and what is my mood when I get off? And like, why am I going to social media to like placate myself, I guess? And so But I don't have the discipline that you have. I can't just be like, well, I'm just not going to get on it until 10 a.m. Even with the limiters that the iPhone gives you, those are great. And I'm really glad that they put them in place. But like, they just don't work for me because I don't have accountability. Like, if I'm by myself somewhere, you're not with me, I'll just like ignore the limit. I'll just be like, whatever, I'll do what I want. Like, I'm going to get on social media. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't really, I don't think it works for me very well. So 2 weeks ago, I just deleted all of the social apps from my phone just to like, well, the original idea was I just am going to like detox and like figure out my next steps. I don't know. So I deleted them all from my phone, and not being on social media in the morning is actually game changing. Like, it really does, like, I guess, set the pace for the rest of the day, which is insane because I kind of thought it would be for me too, like at night, because that's like I use it to avoid, right? And so, but it really is the mornings that is like crucial.
And one thing that I've always, not always, one thing that I have come to like have an opinion on is using social media in the morning. It's like, why are we, our brains, like we just slept for 8 hours, you know, or close to it. And we have allowed our brain to rest, rejuvenate, and become anew for the day. And then we wake up and we give our very best brain power, our very best brain cells, you know, with all of their new energy to scrolling social media. Like, whenever I started to realize that about what I was doing with my time and you know, that I was literally, I would, you know, wake up, reach over, grab the phone, scroll through social media, and it's like I'm giving away my most like energized, you know, brain time to scrolling,
to nothing,
to absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And that led me to coin the phrase, "Don't scroll your life away."
Okay.
And so now, whenever you know, that I will be whatever we're doing, if I notice that Sarah has been scrolling for a long time, you know, sometimes I'll just say, "Don't scroll your life away."
Yep, that's true.
And then she's
wonderful.
like, "I'll do what I want."
Yes, exactly. But the thing is that it's true. So, and I will only say that like in this conversation. Whenever you tell me later to stop scrolling, I will tell
when
you
I'm packing up all the podcast gear and you're scrolling social media.
I will say I'll do what I want. But I think, I don't know. I think for me, it's just like I'm noticing it. I'm just overstimulated. I also deal a bit with stress and anxiety, if you guys haven't noticed. And so social media like really plays into my anxiety, and it's just overstimulating me, I think. And it's not even like all the news on Twitter or the outrage or whatever. I think it's a literal overstimulation. It's not like there's just too much going on, you know, whatever. It's like photo after photo after photo after photo after photo. And like your brain just like, it can't, you know what I mean? It can't handle it. And like story after story after story of a video and a video and a video. And like, there's literally no end to social media, you know? It's like laundry. And like, our brains don't know how to like stop it, you know? So I just like, I have been feeling like way overstimulated and overwhelmed by social media. So I've been like thinking about this for a long time. Like, okay, what literally like months I've been like trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do with this whole revelation of social media, but then also like not necessarily wanting to get rid of social media because I like it. Like, I like knowing what my friends in other parts of the country are up to. And I like meeting people on social media and things like that. There's like certain aspects of it that are really great. But I do think that maybe it's just not something that I am equipped to deal with, you know? So I deleted all socials for the last 2 weeks. But I thought on Friday, I was like, you know what? Like, it's been 2 weeks and I feel really great. You know, I'm just going to download Instagram back onto my phone, not get on it, you know, but just like see how I like do. I was on it all day. I was like, are you kidding me? I just did a 2-week detox from social media and it did nothing for me. Like, it did nothing. I was so irritated at myself. So Instagram has now been deleted from my phone again. And I think I don't really know what my next step is. Like, as far as like how to control social media and not allow social media to control me. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. The thing that you said about it being an addiction.
Yeah.
I think that it is so very true and something that a lot of us don't really ever consider or recognize.
Well, it's like socially acceptable.
Right.
You know?
It's like coffee. You know,
right.
It's like it's addictive, acceptable. But it's also like sexy to talk about how you can't talk to anybody unless you have your morning coffee. It's like you're saying, I literally need to be on drugs, you know, to handle you.
Yes, exactly.
And so...
But I really do. I've been thinking about this for like 6 months. I really do think that it's no different. Like, it's just that, you know, actually, like other drugs, like heroin, crack, whatever, have like other effects that are like pretty detrimental. And so that's why there's such a like bad reputation around them. But caffeine or social media is no different than any other drug addiction, I think. Or maybe not social media specifically, but, you know, screens, our phones, whatever. I don't think there's any difference. And there's no difference for me because I'm using it for the same purposes.
The addiction that I have heard it likened to, that I think it is a really good comparison, is gambling addiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it is a stimulus, not a drug. I guess drugs are stimulus too, but it's not an ingestible.
It makes sense. Yeah.
You know, it's not something. I feel like more people can get behind the fact, you know, they're like, well, it's not a drug because you're not actively putting a hallucinogen or a depressant or whatever into your body. Right. You know, you're just like, you know, looking at something. Well, that is the same as gambling. Gambling is not something that you're ingesting. Gambling is something that you are doing.
Right.
And it's the same as somebody who sits at a slot machine and they get addicted to it, and they get addicted to pulling the lever, seeing a response, and sometimes being rewarded, most of the time not, but they can't stop.
Yeah.
And that is the exact same thing as social media.
Yes.
You're scrolling, you are sometimes rewarded, most of the time not, and most of the time you leave with less money than what you came in with. Mm-hmm. You leave with less energy than what you came in. You came in with less, basically happiness.
Yeah, you have like a little bit of an empty feeling, and then the only thing that your brain says will fill the empty feeling is more of the same thing that's emptying you.
Yeah,
for sure.
So again, that may not be everybody's experience with social media, but I do think that it is more than zero.
100% agree.
And I think that it is also probably more than a lot of people would like to admit.
Yeah. Yeah, because the internet is cool and like has given so many opportunities to so many people. And like, it's a amazing, connective place. But I mean, that doesn't mean it's all good, you know? And I feel like, I don't know, we should just pay attention to, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's just like there were no seatbelts in the beginning. Like, we didn't know what it was going to do to our brains. Mm-hmm. And so now we're all just like, what the crap? Like,
yeah. So let's talk about that. We have said this story before, but since this is the entire episode about social media, maybe some of you haven't heard us say this. But I don't remember who came up with.
I read an article of this person who interviewed 3 different people, a psychologist, I don't know, 2 other people, I can't remember. Anyways, about social media. And one of them said that their view on social media is basically this. When the car was first invented, everybody hated it because it went too fast. It was not safe, things like that. And they were right.
And as car technology progressed,
right,
it got faster,
right,
and more dangerous.
And they were right. And so what they did was they invented seatbelts and airbags for safety precautions. And he said, that's where we're at with social media. He said, it's fast and unsafe, and we just need some seatbelts.
Mm-hmm. And traffic lights.
Yes.
It's like roads were the Wild West.
Yeah.
And, we now, for the metaphor, we have, seatbelts, and we have airbags, safety features if we were to crash. But there are even more safety measures in place to keep us from crashing.
Right. Like websites, the internet only gets paid if you are staying on their site.
Right.
That's it. So everything, and I know it sounds like kind of pessimistic, I guess, but like everything is created a headline is a headline to get you to click on it, and like Facebook makes their algorithm the way they do to get you to stay there. And every website is like that. And so it's kind of manipulative. And I feel like we should at least be aware of when we're being manipulated, and like actively choose to continue being manipulated or not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And to realize that every single website, and especially social media websites, they are all incentivized.
Yes.
To keep you on their website for as long as possible.
Right.
Because that's the way that they serve you ads,
and
which is the way
that
they make money. The more ads they can serve you over time, the more money they can make. And so every update, every algorithm is all designed around how can we keep you on our site for as long as possible.
Right. And
if you want even a side note proof of that is post something on any of the social sites, like post something on Facebook that is just a text post, or you upload a picture directly to Facebook. See how far that reach goes, how many people are liking and commenting on it. Then post a link to something else that's going to take them away from Facebook, and then see how many people like and comment and do that.
Literally nobody.
Because Facebook suppresses, and well, I mean, not just Facebook, social media apps suppress content that is taking people away from their website.
Right.
They want you to post directly to the website.
And your happiness is based on that interaction, and it doesn't interact well. And then your mood goes significantly down, and it has nothing to do with anything except for that, well, you want them to go away from Facebook, so we're not going to show it to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's all so manipulative and so like wild. It messes with your brain.
So speaking of articles and speaking of stats and proof, we weren't really talking about stats, but we'll just run with it. So I read an article today in preparation for this episode.
There you go, prepping again.
So this is an article by Jonathan Haidt. He recently wrote a book about the coddling of the American mind. And I have not read it yet, but it sounds very interesting. I've listened to a couple interviews with him, and all...
Is it about advertising and stuff?
No. Oh. He is talking about how, specifically about Gen X, the generation after millennials, how...
Z, I thought.
Oh, sorry, yes. Z, we are X. They're Z.
No, we are Y.
Then who's X?
Yeah, because I think I'm technically an IY, which is the second half of Y, right?
Our parents X, I guess? And we're Y?
X, Y, Z, yes.
Yeah.
We know the alphabet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's way at the end. But yeah. Okay. So
what's after Gen Z?
I don't know. I guess we're going back to A.
Oh.
So Generation Z coming up, how they have been coddled and basically have been pruned.
Yeah.
No, they haven't been pruned. They've been softened, because prune would.
Yes.
They essentially they have been put into little bubbles and been allowed their entire childhood to not have to deal with any sort of negative things, and everything around them is a trigger warning, and taking all of that away from them, and making sure that they don't eat dirt, and making sure that nobody ever says anything mean about them. And so whenever now they're entering into college and entering into adulthood, they do not know how to handle
Cope.
life.
Yeah. And
they are shifting the dynamic of what it even means to. They don't understand nuance is the biggest thing, but that's not the conversation we're having. That is what his book is about, but he also talks about social media, and he wrote this article in The Guardian. And I quote, "We also see this trend in the rate of teenage suicide, which is rising for both sexes in the US and the UK. The suicide rate is up 34% for teenage boys in the US. For girls, it's up an astonishing 82%. In the UK, the corresponding increase for teenage boys through 2017 is 17%, with the increase for girls at 46%. Nobody knows for certain why recent years have seen so much more of a change for girls and boys, but the leading explanation is the arrival of smartphones and social media. Girls use social media more than boys, and they seem to be more affected by chronic social comparison. Focus on physical appearance, awareness of being left out, and social or relational aggression that social media facilitates."
I don't think that's surprising at all. That is interesting that the US rates are higher than the UK, because I always thought it was opposite.
The UK's rates are actually down overall versus the US is actually rising overall.
Interesting.
So some other graphs that he also shared were in 2017, 1 in 5 girls in the US aged between 12 and 17 suffered at least one major depressive episode. And in the graph, it's a graph that is going from 2004 to 2016, and it shows the percentage of boys and girls who have suffered at least one major depressive episode. And the numbers stay generally the same. It's kind of like a steady line right up until 2011, 2012, the introduction of most, social media. It takes a steep incline, especially for girls. Boys, it's a general, it's a pretty good hill. For females, it is a mountain. Again, the suicide, there was a graph that corresponded with the suicide rate jumping significantly with social media. And then another graph is about self-harm, so cutting yourself. This, again, is much higher in girls, because self-harm is more of a female thing, because one of the things that Jonathan said is that females tend to internalize their depression and hurt themselves, and men externalize their depression and hurt others. Basically, this is hospital admissions for non-fatal self-harm in girls, and it is risen steadily for all age groups, but the ages 10 to 14 from 2009, it looks like, to 2015 is up 189%.
Oh my gosh.
So these are Gen Zers, girls that have been given phones and social media at a young age. Their self-harm rate is up 89%.
Yeah.
And then age 15 to 19 is the highest group overall, and they're up 62%, versus 20 to 24 is up 17%. And one thing he talks about this is, for most millennials, our social media was not really, we weren't given social media up until basically college. Most millennials did not get social media until college or just before. And so we were able to
got
live.
Facebook my senior year of high school.
Right.
I think it came out a couple years before that, but.
And so essentially what he's saying is we were actually lucky enough to live our entire childhood without social media, and it was given to us later. So we are, generally speaking, the millennial generation, statistically speaking, the millennial generation is faring far better than Gen Z whenever it comes to the effects of social media, because we were given, it was given to us at a much later developed age.
Right.
So the data that would be correlation, this isn't a causation scientific study. This is just big data that is, being correlated with the introduction of social media into the world, and the amount of self-harm, suicide, and mental disorders all dramatically
increasing. Like not even just like a literal spike.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't surprise me, first of all, especially like in girls, because, generally speaking, females are more social than male, and obviously comparison is a thing for girls. And I mean, society, like, we are taught to compare and to like feel like we're not enough, and like buy all this crap that's going to make us look and feel better or whatever. And like, yeah, obviously social media is prime for that, and especially with the like, I guess like the influencing age, with the like Instagram influencers like flying to all these places, and that whole, was it the Fire Festival documentary we watched which was wild, but at the very end of the documentary, they were talking about like, you can literally rent a photo session on a private jet, and it for like $3,000 or something.
It's like in Russia where it
doesn't leave the runway, the tarmac.
Yeah.
And you just like pretend like you're flying in a private jet and get professional photos.
It's like
for
in Russia,
Instagram.
They have this first class cabin. I think there's a whole plane, but it's like a first class cabin that they have sitting there. That it's not for flying. It is literally for you to pay to come and take your photos in the first class cabin to post on social media. And
I'm kind of speechless about it, because I think that just shows like a lot of the negative things that are happening with social media right now. Like, I mean, you're perpetuating such an idea that is like so unattainable, yet everyone feels like, oh, if I'm not that, I'm nothing. Like there's this like, used to, which I mean, I guess it kind of goes into the like everyday people are now celebrities, like everyone's famous kind of thing. And like, I have a lot to say about fame culture too, and like celebrities and all of that stuff, like just the like toxicity in all of it. And I guess it sort of plays into that, but like now it's not just like watching celebrities be famous in magazines. You know what I mean? It's like our peers, our friends, our people who are supposedly just like us have this lifestyle that like we
perceived
feel
lifestyle,
right? Because they're paying for a photo session. I forgot. Perceived lifestyle that we all feel like, I'm not successful if I don't have that,
right?
And it just like it perpetuates this mentally unwell like culture that we're all living in right now. And I read a statistic a couple years ago. it's been a while, and I don't know even where I read it from, but so who knows really. But it said like 80% of the world's antidepressants are consumed in America. 80%.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. Like, I don't even know like what to say about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like
we are
how
the most connected generation,
right?
And the most depressed.
Yes, most depressed, most lonely.
Yeah.
And it's proven. I mean, it's true. Like
Yeah.
there are science studies
Right.
and whatever
I guess
about
Gen
that.
Z is the most depressed, but millennials are the most lonely.
Yeah. And I just think that's really sad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't want to perpetuate that, and I don't want to. We've had a lot of conversations about this recently too, but I don't want to be a part of a system that promotes or perpetuates something that is 100% against who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been having a lot of conversations about that, and not just social media, but like literally everything in my life. Like I want everything that I do to be purposeful and intentional and like healthy. And so thinking about that with social media, like at this point in my life, at this time, I cannot do social media well. I can't do it healthy. And so I think like I just can't do it. I think that's where I'm at, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really have, I mean,
that's those conversations that we've been having have also led us to also be reevaluating how we are going to be moving forward in, I guess, our career.
right.
So as you are listening to right now, we're podcasters. We're also on YouTube and we're making videos. And all of that stuff lends itself very well to selling something.
To advertising and
advertising, all that type of stuff. And like I mentioned, in the beginning, talking about B&H, it's like we only want to talk about things that we genuinely
right.
use.
Yes.
I get, hit up all the time for, to sell things to you. And I turn them down because, or they can send me a sample product but I have never once used a sample product and actually shared it.
Right.
Because I'm like, nothing has ever been to the point where I would text my friend and be like, yo,
right.
have you seen this thing? It's always like, that was kind of disappointing. So why would I possibly, talk about that or try to sell that thing to, people? Because that is so inauthentic to me that I just can't do it.
Right.
And so you will actually, I'm not going to announce it now, but it's very soon in the future, we are going to be changing some stuff in our, model of way we're doing things that is going to free us up, from that obligation.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about that. I also think it's in line with our values. I also think it's in line with this conversation. Of truly being authentic and living the way that to truly live and present the life that not only that we are trying to live and want to live, but also that we feel is worth emulating.
Right. Yeah. Like I read this book called Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig, and it is so good. I think probably I had been feeling a lot of these feelings, and he talks about them all in his book. And so I think maybe it like started this whole like, oh my gosh, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to change my whole life, kind of mentality. But it's a book about anxiety. It's on anxiety and how the society that we live in, the world that is set up for us is all about making us more anxious. And he talks a lot about advertising in that book too, and social media. I think they kind of go hand. I mean, social media exists because advertisers pay to be on there. Like, You know what I mean? Like they are kind of the same thing. But he talks about how regardless of if it's a good ad or whatever, and maybe, I guess I'm just going to say it because whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Regardless of if it's art and a good ad and like beautiful and whatever, at the core of an ad is to get you to want to buy something. It's to get you to feel that feeling of, I'm not fulfilled yet, but that when I buy that, I'll feel happy. Mm-hmm. That is the point of every ad, regardless of how good it is. And I think like that's my whole problem.
Yeah.
Like that's my whole thing with like social media and everything is like at the core of it all, it's about making you feel less than so that you'll stay there so that they can sell to you, you know? And like, I just don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah. To present ways that your life sucks, but
I have a solution. Buy this face cream and you'll be pretty. Right. You know, like
that's brave of you.
So brave. I'm so glad I could share my story. Yeah, I think yeah, I don't know. There's nothing wrong necessarily with, I want to make that clear, like with advertising or whatever. Like okay, let me just say, I personally am against it, but like I understand the way in which we live. I get that we're in a consumeristic society. I get that, you know, whatever. I also understand that people who sell things to people got to pay rent. Like, I have no judgment against anybody.
Yeah, and it's like, will we never sell anything? No. It's because like advertising is so much of our economy.
Right.
It's insane.
That's what I'm saying. We literally can't survive as a people as is without advertising and consumerism. I get it. But
I don't know. I think we can survive without consumerism. We just can't survive without consuming.
I don't.
Well,
what do you mean?
Because consumerism is the buy. I need more. I need to.
Isn't that how all of everybody works? Don't they feed you that lie?
Yes. I just think that there is a healthy way to consume.
Totally. I think there's a healthy way to consume. I'm not against consuming things.
I just think that consumerism is the unhealthy, but I don't know the right word for the healthy side.
I see what you're saying.
You know, because there's a healthy way to consume.
Yes, totally.
It's like, you don't need to go to H&M every time there's a new baby shower or a new, somebody invited to some frat party. It's like, you don't need a new outfit every single time.
Right. You also don't have to be an insane minimalist either, because we're minimalist, but we're not crazy, like crazy get rid of everything. I have like 400 books. Like Marie Kondo does not agree, does not approve of 400 books, but that's beside the point. Anyways, my point is that I do not judge or knock anybody who partakes in that system necessarily, because I understand that is how we run currently. Also, I have purchased products because an Instagram influencer talked about it and I ended up loving the product. Like it's not that it's like all bad, but again, I know, because I know myself, like that all of that makes me very mentally unwell.
Right.
You know, and like I just don't think that I can like do it a little bit. I think it's all or nothing. I think my brain can't handle.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
I think so what you were saying there with, sometimes you've bought things that you have liked or whatever. It's like, I have too, like, especially with, there is on occasion, very seldomly, do you see an ad or you see, somebody on YouTube or on Instagram or whatever who is using a product that legitimately you've never seen before and fulfills a need that you legitimately have.
Right.
And so like sitting right next to me is my backpack, and it's a douchebag made by Yoon Olsen.
Yeah.
And yes, and that is the name of the.
That's the company.
That's
name.
the name of the bag company is called Douchebags. And I had been looking for an everyday backpack for a long time.
Years, probably.
But I never found one that fit my aesthetic and fit my needs.
Right.
And then he made this backpack and showed it to me on a YouTube, showed it to everybody on a YouTube video, didn't show it to me specifically.
He said, hey, Cody.
Yeah. But anyways, he advertised a product and I was like, holy cow.
I need that.
Exactly what I need. I ordered it and I absolutely love it. It's my everyday backpack, the thing that I use all the time, and I'm very happy with that purchase. Saying that to say, it's not that it never works. It is more so that it is few and far between that an advertisement is given to you that genuinely meets a true need that you have.
Right.
Versus creating a void in your life to fulfill the void that didn't exist before that thing.
Yes. Absolutely. And that is the thing I think that gets me, is that we're all just running around saying like, oh, hey, you're not complete yet, but here, I have this thing for you. And like, whether or not that's nobody's actually saying that, but like, that's the feeling it's creating,
right?
You know? And, I think it was Ashton Kutcher said it in a speech or something one time. He said, we don't have to buy what they're selling. You know what I mean? And I think he was like, you don't have to buy, the fact, like, from these makeup companies that you need mascara to look pretty. Like, you don't have to buy that. You can just decide that you look pretty, you know? And I think that's just where I'm at. I'm just really tired of like buying into the thing that I don't believe in. Yeah. Not that, I don't mean that in like our own personal work. I just mean like as a consumer.
Right.
Like, I'm really tired of buying into something I don't believe in. And so I don't know where that leaves me, but yeah, my whole life might be over. Who knows? I
mean, and again, that goes back to how I started this conversation. That may not be the case for everybody. Like,
it's probably not.
Like for us, I would semi-label us as anti-consumers.
Right.
Like I would definitely not label myself as consumeristic. Like, I rarely buy things.
Right.
Rarely.
The only thing I actively just like shop for are books.
Yeah.
Other than that, if it's not like I notice that I don't have this thing that I need, like I bought pot holders the other day because ours were old. And I was like, I'm really tired of looking at these old gross pot holders. I'm going to buy new ones. Like stuff like that. If it's not like a mission shopping, then it's books. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. But so this is just sharing our, experience with that and our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But I think that relating this back to the social media thing, social media, even whenever it is not advertising, it still can be selling. It's selling.
Well, it's selling an idea.
It's selling a lifestyle. But I think that is, so I think there's two folds to the conversation. It is one, that's the comparison side of it. The, looking at it and looking at other people, comparing yourself to them, to those people.
I'm impossible. I can't not compare.
Right.
It's impossible.
So there's that side, but then there's also just the addictive nature of social media in even, no matter if it is good or bad, it's addictive, or can be addictive. And so being controlled by the need to see the notifications, being controlled by the need to get on the app, that part of it is just as much as a detriment to my personal mental health and my personal productivity, that it is worth limiting myself. And whenever I do limit myself and keep the discipline to not hit ignore, I feel much better about my day. I feel much better in general. I feel clearer
Yeah.
in my head. I feel like I
think you can,
I can come up with ideas and, things better.
Yeah, I think you can do social media in a healthy way. Just like I think you can consume in a healthy way, right? Like it's just figuring out those limiters for yourself and then like actually doing them and like staying aware, self-aware of how you're feeling and mostly why are you even on social media?
Right.
Like are you on it because your brain just like opened the app and you have no idea like how you got there? Or are you on it because you're avoiding something? Are you on it because you're like comparing and like going down this kind of like negative self spiral, like, or are you on it to actually connect and to see like how your friends are? Like, I think if you're just really honest and self-aware about the reason that you're on social media at that point in time, and it's not like a general statement like, oh, I'm on social media because I love seeing my friends. Like, no.
Right. That can be your excuse for getting on it all the time.
Like in this 10 minutes, why have you been scrolling social media? And like really ask yourself those questions. And that's what I started doing. And more often than not, it's because I'm in some sort of negative spiral,
Yeah. And also, I think asking yourself, after of like, am I happier now than I was 2 hours ago when I started scrolling social media?
For sure.
What is my mood now after scrolling social media versus how I was before? Is it better? Is it worse? Is it, what effect did it have on you? And truly weighing the cost, because it's going to have a cost,
right?
Is it a net positive or a negative? It's like, there is times. I mean, that I just felt like I was getting into a hole there of feeling like I was saying that all social media consumption is negative. Ultimately, no, that's not the case, because it does bring joy to connect with friends. It does bring joy
also,
to...
memes are funny.
Right.
And it's good to laugh.
Yes, it's good to laugh. You can be entertained. I
enjoy a good sarcastic tweet.
You can make genuine people connections, have actual conversations. All of that is why social media is so amazing.
Yeah.
All of that is why we shouldn't discontinue the car.
Right.
We should just create safety lanes, create traffic lights and stop signs, and put seatbelts, because having the car is way more valuable, and we can get way more done, and we can progress the human race and through connection.
Yes.
Much faster and easier than if we all had to, ride bikes.
Right.
But so I think that there is value to social media, and it does have a place in our new world.
Yes.
But we have given it control over a lot of our lives. And I have personally given it control many times. And I think that finding the balance, figuring out what I need to do so that I can enjoy the benefits of social media without falling into, I guess, just the addictive qualities and natures of it.
Yeah, I think social media is really great in a lot of aspects. I just think I can't handle it right now. And so I'm just asking a lot of questions. And again, like most of what we talk about, being very intentional and self-aware in what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And so I think, I don't really have any like nicely packaged thoughts to sum up my views on social media and mental health, because I'm currently living it. So I don't know. I guess this is just a lot of questions right now.
Yeah, I think that the end would be just the fact that everybody's different. I am less affected by
Right.
social media in general. I am a little more disciplined to be able to to be self-limiting.
Right.
Versus you, it affects your mental health significantly more.
Right.
And you have a harder time with self-limiting. And so
probably because it affects my mental health, though. Like
Right.
those are probably correlate,
Yeah.
honestly.
And so, you are asking those questions and setting them up of like, okay, I've tried
Yeah.
many different things. These things don't work. And I like myself much better when I'm not on social media.
Yeah.
And so figuring out, do I just need to not be on social media? How can I continue to contribute my
Right.
art to the world without it? Or through very limiting
Right.
access?
Yeah, we've talked about like Cody having the passwords to my social medias and not me, so that I can't just get on it when I want, but I can he can get on it and post something for me or whatever. Like
Right.
we're discussing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I don't want to not contribute or not be on it, because like we mentioned, it's fun. There's like memes that I want to see the dog videos, you guys.
Mhm.
But like having somebody in control of how long I can watch the dog videos is
Mhm.
probably a good idea,
But I think even more than that is the fact that you're an artist and
Yeah.
you create art for the world. And right now, the way that the world is set up is that art is consumed or found through the mediums of social media.
Right.
And so,
How do I do that without
Right.
falling into the mess that is my brain?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are that is essentially the conversation we were literally having today of
Yeah.
just how to create the internet that for us.
Right. How do I manage my internet
Yeah.
well?
Yeah. And so in that conversation, it just felt very valuable to, record that. And,
Yeah.
because there could be many, I think that knowing that data and seeing the
Is
graphs of
huge.
the, the correlation of
Mhm.
social media and mental health in this next generation is massive.
Yeah.
And should not be ignored, and should not be ignored in our lives either. And knowing ultimately,
Right. Just because you're not a Gen Z doesn't mean it's not doing the
Right.
exact same thing to you.
yeah, because I would say that you have 100% found it is doing that to you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That you're basically, you recognize yourself in the graphs.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's important to know the what perspective.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
There you have it. That would be.
It feels kind of like a non-ending for the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's because we just don't have any nice little this is
Bow.
our opinion.
Bow to wrap it up in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that non-ending is now. Thank you guys for listening to Deeply Curious. We appreciate your time that you have given to the podcast. Hopefully
Yeah.
that time was given because it is beneficial to you, and you have found that it entertains you, educates you, or provides perspective or a different perspective into your life.
Yeah.
That would be the goal, is for us to just share our life in progress and hope that that is something that is of value to you.
Yes.
So thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you've made it this far, it is probably because you enjoyed it. So if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and leaving a review of this podcast, that helps get the show spread so that more people can listen to the thing that you probably enjoy, since you're listening to me still right now, even though the show's already ended.
Yeah.
So that is the end. I got nothing.
Okay.
All right.
Goodbye.
See you next week. Bye.